We're surrounded by this incredible variety of jobs. I mean, everything from blacksmiths to data scientists. It's wild. But have you ever stopped to think about the system that actually connects them all? That's what we're going to do today. We're going to build a kind of mental map of the world of work. We'll get into what occupations are, sure, but more importantly, why they even exist in the first place.
So let's start with the most basic question of all. Why do we even have jobs? I know, it sounds almost silly to ask, right? But the answer is so much deeper than just to earn a paycheck. There's a core economic reason for this whole structure, and it's really at the foundation of how our society works.
And here it is. This is the fundamental reason. On one side, you have us, humans, and we have basically unlimited wants, don't we? We need the basics, food, shelter, but we also want the new phone, we want to travel, we want, well, everything. But then, on the other side, you've got the reality check. Earth's resources are limited. The land, the materials, even our own time, it's all finite. And it's this tension, this huge gap between what we all want and what's actually available, that's the exact reason occupations were born. Okay, so an occupation is basically the system we came up with to bridge that gap. It's a legitimate activity that lets us contribute our skills, our time, whatever, and in return, we earn what we need to satisfy those wants and needs. It's this whole organized exchange that's literally the engine of our economy.
All right, but we don't just randomly pick a job out of a hat, right? Of course not. There are all these powerful forces out there guiding us, kind of pushing and pulling us towards certain careers. So let's take a quick look at some of the biggest drivers that shape the job market.
First up, and maybe the most basic one, is just the environment, climate and weather. It kind of dictates what's even possible in a region. You're going to see a lot more lumberjacks in a forest than you are in a desert, right? And more fishing jobs near the coast. Make sense?
Then there's what you bring to the table. Your education, your skills. If you go through years of specialized training, that's obviously going to lead you toward a specific career, like becoming a doctor or an engineer.
And it's not just what's on the surface. What's under the ground is a huge deal. If an area has a ton of oil or minerals or a great natural seaport, you can bet that's going to create a whole bunch of jobs around it, from mining to shipping. And then, of course, there's the money. Salary and wages. I mean, let's be honest, this is a major factor for most of us. How much a job pays is a huge part of what makes it desirable. The government also plays a big role. Their policies set the rules of the game. Things like the minimum age to work or giving money to certain industries. All of that shapes what the workforce looks like. And finally, let's talk about risk. Some jobs are just plain dangerous. That level of risk can push a lot of people away, for sure. But for others, it can actually be an attraction, especially if the pay is higher to compensate for that danger. Okay, so we've got all these different jobs and all these different factors that shape them. But how does it all fit together? This is where it gets really interesting, because we can actually classify pretty much every single job and see how they all connect in a bigger system. So if we're looking at the big picture, we can group almost every job into 4 main categories. This is kind of like our map for the world of work. It all starts with extractive, then moves into manufacturing and constructive, and it all flows into this huge category we call commercial and services. All right, let's break this down. It's like a production line. First, you have extractive jobs. These are all about taking raw stuff directly from the earth. Think farming, mining, fishing. Got it? Okay, then you have manufacturing jobs. They take those raw materials and turn them into actual goods, like taking cotton and weaving it into cloth. And finally, you have constructive jobs. These folks assemble all those manufactured parts into something even bigger, like a bricklayer building a house or a welder putting together a ship. You can see the flow, right? From raw material all the way to a finished product. Now, what about that huge 4th category, services? Well, this one is so massive that we actually have to split it in 2. First, you've got direct services. These are the things you personally pay for. Think about hiring a lawyer or even a private cook. But then you have indirect services. These are different. They're paid for by all of us, by society, through our taxes. This is where you find police officers, public school teachers, and government workers. They're providing a service to everyone. So we've talked about the why, the what, and how of all these different jobs. But really, the most important part of this whole map is figuring out where you fit in. So, what are the big things to remember here? Number 1, no job is an island. They're all connected in this huge web. Number 2,
Your career path isn't just a random choice. It's shaped by all those forces we talked about, from where you live to what you know. And finally, number 3, that services category, both the ones we pay for directly and the ones we all chip in for, is absolutely vital. It's the glue that holds our society together.
And that brings us to one last question, and this one's for you to think about. When you look at this whole framework, extractive, manufacturing, constructive, and services, where do your own career goals fit in? Understanding this map isn't just some boring exercise. It's really the first step in figuring out how to navigate your own path in this incredible, complex world of work.